Hello friends, my neighbor is mowing. I'm hoping that does not make this too loud. I wanted to go through with you really quick because this group has had many forms, and I am leaning into my specialty, which is methylation. Genetics, holistic genetics is my specialty. Methylation is the thing that I am obsessed with because it is the thing that has most strongly impacted my family, and with my role as a practitioner and as an expert in holistic genetics, I utilize that information and the resources I have to help my family's methylation, which helps everything else. So for those of you that are saying, methylation, what in the world are you talking about? Is that even a thing? I've never heard of it. Okay, methylation is the act of your body adding a methyl group to a molecule, to a gene. What does that do? It's kind of the idea of switching genes on and off. Think of it as a master control system. So you have these thousands upon thousands of genes, and they can be functioning or they cannot be functioning. Some we want to function more than others. Some we want functioning at different times. For example, mTOR, MTOR. We don't want that functioning all the time because it is cellular replication. It is the growth gene. And when that's happening, great, except if it is happening too much, if it is happening constantly, then you're never in the heal, because you're either in mTOR is either on or autophagy is on. So we have growth and we have healing. If we have too much growth, that's where we look at things like cancer, tumors, overgrowth. We don't want perpetual growth. We need healing because we don't want a cell that is dysfunctional being replicated. We have to have both. So this is the idea of methylation, and one of the reasons it's so critically important is because we need things turned on and off appropriately. An analogy that is not entirely scientifically accurate but will kind of help with the idea is, think of methylation as this person running around slapping sticky notes on all the molecules and all the genes, saying, hey, do this job, you need to make this enzyme, you need to incorporate this cofactor. It is letting all the things know that here's this molecule sitting with all the resources, all the energy, all the ability to do the thing that it's supposed to do, but if it's not told what to do, it's not going to meet its potential. So methylation is truly the body's ability to reach its full potential. All right, a lot of people are like, MTHFR. That's the only thing we're looking at. And if we got MTHFR, we know exactly what to do to support ourselves. Let me tell you, that is so far from the truth, and so many people are having detrimental effects because they are not understanding that methylation is so much more than MTHFR. And your methylation cycle, it doesn't look like this. It looks like this, all right? I'm being dramatic, but it is crazy complex, all right? So MTHFR, very, very important, right? We've got the 677, we've got the 1298. They both serve a function within folate, within conversion of folate. And the 1298 also helps with the neurochemical modulation. A good analogy is it's a fuel injector for your car, right? If you have the CT or the TT, it's clogged. And so then you're not delivering the right fuel to your cellular engine. So you could be eating all the right things, taking all the right things, or so you think, but it's not being delivered in the way that your body's able to utilize them. The other gene that I care about within methylation is the MTHFR. And this is something that helps shuffle the folate around within the cell. So the analogy with this one is it would be like you've got a warehouse manager that has all the shelves that need to be stocked, but the shelves are not being stocked correctly. Things are getting put in the wrong place, or they're just backlogged. They're not getting the replenishment on the shelves at the speed that it should happen if you have an MTHFR variant. Next one, TCN2. I'm telling you guys this thing because I want you to understand there's so much more to methylation. The TCN2, this delivers B12 into the cells where it can actually do something. Teo, my dog is over here. Teo, simmer down. if your B12, if your methylcobalamin or adenocobalamine, adenosine, if that's just sitting in the cellular receptor and not being pulled into the cell, it's not doing anything. We need things to go from the blood serum through the process that they go through, which is a several step process, into the cellular receptor, pulled into the cell, utilized by the cell. If you have the TCN2 variant, if you have a variant within this, then you could have plenty of B12 in your blood serum. You can look at your blood serum and look at, oh, look how much B12. It could even be dangerously high, except you have intercellular deficiency. So it's a functional anemia of B12. This is why you can have B12 deficiency symptoms despite high blood serum levels. So do not look at the blood serum, you guys. I'm a functional blood specialist. Do not look at the blood serum levels and make that an indicator of how well your body is managing certain things without the genetic information to go, oh, of course this is going to be high because my genes aren't going to do the delivery system appropriately without the correct support. Next is your MTR. That uses B12 and it recycles the homocysteine into methionine. I'm trying to think how to explain this. So it's important for methylation, and it's also important for your body's ability to make what's called SAMe. If you're going to enter it, to look it up, because I'm not going to go into a full class here. It's capital S, capital A, capital M, lowercase e. Very important for your DNA to function. Next is MTHFR. That recharges your B12 after MTR uses it. So we just talked about MTR. Again, this is the cycle, right? It's very complex. It is very, very important to keep the methylation cycle spinning, so to speak. All right. Then you have COMT. This is the kicker, and this is something really important. Y'all, if you are taking a methylcobalamin, right? You found out you have an MTHFR variant, and so you're going to take methylcobalamin, the active form, the methylated form of B12, because that's what your genes need. Except if you have a COMT, let's say a AA, so a homozygous variant, a AA allele, and you take a large dose of methylated B12, methylcobalamin, you could experience anxiety, frustration, your relationships can suffer because you can just have irritability, you can struggle sleeping because it's overmethylation that is impacting your catecholamines, your neurohormones, ability to metabolize the way that they should be. I don't mean to should on you, but I'm just saying it's a thing. So you don't just want to look at your MTHFR. You don't just want to look at 2 genes. You don't just want to look at 4, 6, 8. I like 12. Actually, I think it's 13. Let's keep moving. BHMT. BHMT is amazing because it's a backup system. So if you don't have good function of your methylation cycle and you don't have a variation in your BHMT, it's actually better to have the variation. I know this gets confusing because when they did the Human Genome Project, 70% of the genome came from one man and the other 30% was a conglomeration of people, and they weren't perfect, right? They weren't the perfect human specimen, which means not every variation is bad impact, negative impact, and not every variation is good. Some variants are what we consider protective. So if you have a BHMT, it is a backup route for making the methionine, and you need choline and TMG for that. Again, I'm not going to go into the full details of this. I'm just trying to show you that this is more than just one gene and the 2 SNPs within that gene. Okay, CHDH. That is a gene that turns choline into betaine. It uses also TMG is the other name. It is required for methylation. If you have a variant where you do not have enough choline, it is critical to be supplementing that in addition to the B vitamins And this would depend on your unique situation. I never give blanket information. Yes, there is some fundamental, foundational health things as humans, but when it comes to genes, when I'm looking at 168 genes, SNPs, it's going to, all of them, because nothing happens in isolation, all of them are going to influence the recommendation of doses, of supplements, of not doing any supplements, and just doing lifestyle changes, doing physical activity, doing meditation, things like that. The answer is not always supplements. CHDH matters. That is critical for methylation. Then you have your PEMT. So your PEMT turns choline into phosphatidylcholine. You can just supplement with phosphatidylcholine if you have a PEMT variant. And this is important for bile, for liver function, for cellular membrane health. And you're going, okay, bile and liver function, what does that have to do with methylation? Well, people with methylation have a bottleneck in the second phase of their liver's detoxification. It's called hepatic phase 2 detoxification. And there's a bottleneck there, which makes us more susceptible to heavy metal toxicity, amongst other things. So that is why the liver and bile is tied in here. And here's the thing with bile. Bile can recycle 14, 17 times before it is cleared out by the system. And so when you are doing something like detoxification, if you're not doing the right binders for your unique situation, those things can just recycle inside the body and not actually be moved through effectively. This is why you don't listen to a friend going, oh, I did this detox and it was amazing, and then you would do it because she did it. Well, is it going to be amazing for you? It depends. It depends on if it's the right thing for your body. So we don't just want to take advice that our friend did this, and so we should too, because it's not just our genes that are different, it's our environmental exposure, it's our food, it's our childhood, it's our upbringing. Were you breastfed? Were you bottle fed? Did you live in the country? Did you live in the city? All of these things contribute to what is stored in your body, what has already been removed, what is stored, what is stuck, what needs to be taken out. So we don't just want to do things that everybody's doing and expect that it's going to work. Again, fundamentally, some things are generically good, and we don't want to do aggressive things that somebody else did because you're hoping it works for you. That's throwing mud at the wall and seeing what sticks. Learn about your genes, take control of your health, and be the expert of you. Okay, just a couple more, 3 more. CBS, not the TV station, CBS. It clears out homocysteine and it converts it into sulfur compounds. The NBPF3 regulates how your cell uses B12. So it's in the cell, now your cell needs to use it, now you need your NBPF3 to determine how it's going to be utilized. So this, if it is inefficient, if your NBPF3 is inefficient, you can be supplementing B12, but you still feel kind of numb and tired and brain fog, and it's like you're charging your phone with a frayed cord. So it's just not, the energy isn't getting where it needs to go. All right, then 2 more. I said 3 more, and then I went through a couple. 2 more. NQO1. NQO1 recycles antioxidants like your CoQ10 and things that are needed to fight oxidative stress. So if this gene is slow, you have low defenses. You're basically running through life without surge protectors. So this is an important thing to know, especially because pollutants will hit you harder, and if pollutants hit you harder, then you really need to focus on avoiding pollutants, right? Avoid those toxins. Make sure that your water is filtered, so you're not dealing with things like atrazine and other farm runoff, herbicides, pesticides, bacteria, heavy metals, things like that. All right, then your OGG1. This repairs oxidative DNA damage. And it's like you have a security system. If you have the variant here, it's like you have a security system with a dead battery. Yay, you have a security system. Boo, it's not working. All right, so one variant out of all of these, okay, you have a detour. It is what it is. If you have 2, 3, or more, now you're driving with a flat tire, a broken GPS, no spare gas cans, and each bottleneck leads to the next bottleneck. And so you're not just dealing with, oh, we got the slowdown. We are hitting obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. I know I have got massive impact in my methylation pathway with a majority of these genes. If you supplement them or you live in a way that supports them, then you live awesome. Then at 45 with 0 menopause symptoms, I have energy. I run circles around my teenagers. My 16 and 17-year-olds run circles around them. I have no pain. I have no brain fog. And it's not because I have super special genes, right? I was crazy sick as a kid. I almost died. I was told by doctors, by the dozens I saw, she's just always going to be sickly. I worked hard my adult life to try to be as healthy as possible. I worked twice as hard to be half as healthy, and then I learned my genetics, and now things are more easy and effortless because I'm supporting the right things. I'm supporting the main source of switching of the control center of my genetics. This is why I don't want you guys looking at an MTHFR gene and then making massive changes based on that one thing, because then when you don't feel better, when you actually feel worse, when you feel more anxiety or your brain fog is weird and just things are off and now your mood is off, then you're going, well, this gene stuff is garbage. No, it's not garbage. It is just incredibly important to have more than just a little information. You're looking at a puzzle with 100,000 pieces, and they're tiny pieces, because let's think of, we're looking at SNPs here, right? Single nucleotide polymorphisms, SNPs. Let me explain what this is. You've got the gene. The gene is like a city. Your SNP is a house in that city, and your alleles, those letters that you see next to the results of your test that you're determining, do I have a variant or not? Those are like two people that live in the house. They're either really talented at the role that they're supposed to serve in that house, or you might have one person that's really skilled at their role and the other person just sleeps. They're just not going to do their job, or they do it poorly, or maybe you have two people that do the job really poorly. Think of that, a whole city, tens of thousands of houses, and you just have this one person that's not doing their job. Is it really going to make that big of an impact? With certain genes, with certain SNPs, we clinically have evidence that yes, it makes a major impact. MTHFR is one of those, right? Especially the 677. And even more impactful is when you're looking at these genes, these SNPs, that all have a role within this function in your body, and it is obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. This is why we need to not look at just the one little puzzle piece when we can have access to more. I say this all the time. I think Gary Brecka, I appreciate his message. I hate his tests. It's 5 SNPs. You guys, it is 5 SNPs for $600. It is not enough information. It's just not. Not when you can spend $300 on a 3x4 test and get 168 SNPs that are all clinically proven to have relevant, actionable items that you can do to support them. Now, self-decode, you can get 800,000 SNPs. I've done that with a couple clients. It is not the answer. I love it, but I don't want to be in charge of your health your whole life. For my clients, I want them to move on, be in charge of their own health. If they're reliant on me, I've failed in my job. They get to become their experts and then just live healthy and not need to outsource their health. The self-decode, the 800,000 SNPs, you're going to be dependent on me because that is overwhelming information. So even though that would be a test where I could make money off of it, 3x4, they have no affiliate, right? I'm referring people to this test and I make nothing off of it. It is the test that for this time, because there's a lot out there and I've reviewed a lot, the 3x4 at this time, I have the test right here, right? The 3x4 at this time is what I use with every single one of my clients. Get the information. Just get the information, y'all. Get it, whether you have a practitioner, get it Whether your doctor says, I can't even tell you the number of doctors that go, oh, MTHFR doesn't actually mean anything. It doesn't do anything, even though it's their team, right? NIH putting out the research saying this is wildly impactful to health. This is something, especially the MTHFR, I think it's the 1298, but I'm sure it's probably the 1298 and the 677, that both impact your thyroid health. They're finding a lot of correlation between MTHFR variants, methylation impact, and thyroid diseases later in life. Here's another tidbit. Okay, and then I'm gonna stop teaching. I meant to just give you a little information, but I'm me, so I'm teaching. Here's the other thing to keep in mind. This didn't start when your symptoms started. Any genetic burden or deficiency or dysfunction that you're experiencing, you've had since the day you were born. You were born with these genes. So what's happening a lot of times, especially with women, is that they have this burden and they have an accumulative burden, and then at some point in time they have symptoms and they go, oh, perimenopause, or oh, this just happens, I'm getting older. No, there's this cumulative burden that eventually shows up. And some people with really terrible genes overall, like really look at them, I am not genetically special. I have, compared to the 100 reports plus reports that I've looked at, mine are some of the worst. That just goes to show your genes are not a sentence, they are a strategy. So get your information, take power, take control, and ask questions in this group. I pivoted this group. This has been, y'all know, I've taught fitness, I've taught health. I've been doing this for 25 years. And so, not just on Facebook, but I've been obsessing on health for 30 years. Yep, that's accurate. And then doing some sort of training, certification, teaching, etc. for 25. Take supplements, yeah, I know. Okay, I've been doing this a long time. And I'm usually going on other people's groups and answering questions. And the problem is some of these groups, like I'm friends with the admin, but they're like, hey, we don't want you to post, right? Because they're selling their tests or they're selling their supplements, and I'm not selling jack squat. I work with clients one-on-one. It's high touch, it's concierge, and then the rest of the time, I just want to put out information. I just want to answer questions, but I don't have the freedom to do that with as much authority in someone else's group. So that's why I decided, all right, I can't post in this person's group. I have these amazing resources specifically for methylation because it is such an impact on my whole family, my extended family, my great aunts and uncles. We have a history of really high impact, terrible things that happen end of life, right? A decline of the last 30 years of life, just all the things that would be related to functional B12 deficiency, anemia. And I want to prevent other people from having to go through that. And I just don't have the freedom to do that in other groups. So ask me questions on genetics, on methylation. I love to answer them, and that's what this group is for. And there we go. I hope you get something out of this. All right, take care, you guys. Bye.